Hello and good day everyone. I am Remark Mayormita, a BSed student major in Social Studies. For today's video, I am going to discuss one of the three types of assessment, which is the observation checklist. But before we start discussing my assigned topic, let's read first the objectives, and after that, we are going to define the word assessment. The objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students can discover more about observation checklist, why it is used, its characteristics, and its functions. Next, they can describe the observation checklist, why it is used, its characteristics, and its functions. And lastly, perform cooperatively differentiated activities focusing on the topic observation checklist. So what is assessment? Assessment is a systematic collection, review, and use of information about the education programs undertaken for the purpose of improving students' learning and development. Assessment is also the process of gathering and discussing of information from the multiple and diverse sources in order to develop a deep understanding what students know and understand as a result in educational experiences. In addition, assessment measures are based on how well students are in meeting learning objectives and curricular goals. There are three types of assessment: the observation checklist, anecdotal report, and lastly, the portfolio assessment. What is observation checklist? Observation checklist is a strategy that monitors specific skills, behaviors, or dispositions of individual students or all the students in the class. It is also a record-keeping device for teachers to use in tracking who has mastered the target and who is not. A student observation checklist is used by teachers to perform an individual or group evaluation on students regarding their behaviors in the classroom. Key areas to observe in student observations are academic or instructional behaviors. This checks for the students' working habits and organizational skills. For example, does the student work carefully and neatly? Does the student regularly attending the class? The next one is social behavior. Social behavior refers to the interaction of the students with the people they're surrounded within the school, including the peers and adults. An example for this is the student friendly towards other students? And lastly, the general behavior. This area pertains to the student's behavior. For example, does the student engage in disruptive behavior in class? And now, let's proceed to the characteristics. Effective observation checklist consists of student's name, space for 4 to 5 target area code or rating to determine student proficiency, the code of student's proficiency, and lastly, the space for any comment. Code of student's proficiency consists of frequently, sometimes, and not yet. This code of student's proficiency should be seen in the observation checklist in order for the teachers and the students as well to be guided in doing the task. This student observation checklist is used by teachers to conduct individual assessment of the student's behavior and interaction. Functions of observation checklist. The first function is for the teacher. It can be formative assessment focusing on specific behavior like thinking, social skills, writing skills, speaking skills, and athletic skills. The peers. Peers assess the progress of another student. And lastly, the group. The group shared and discussed among group members to determine who needs an additional help and to see how is the group performance. Why should we use observation checklist? Observation checklist provides a guide and easy way to observe and record many skills, criteria, and behaviors prior to the final test or summative evaluation. This checklist showed teachers and students the areas of concern early enough to be able to help students before the test. It also provides formative assessment of students' learning and also help the teacher monitor whether or not students on the right track. And lastly, it provides opportunity to change the gear in the classroom. In addition, observation checklist is a great guide in gathering useful information that can provide more objective insights on what can be improved in teaching method, classroom setup, and student learning. There are a variety of tasks in observing children's performance. It can be reading, working, writing, listening, problem solving, constructing, singing, and word processing. Examples of observation checklist. The first example is the individual checklist. Individual checklist is when students are going to observe in persistence. The second observation is developing criteria, developing specific indicators that describe all the skills, action, or behaviors that are expected in terms criterion. The third example is the T-charts. The T-charts helps students understand what certain behavior look like. It is about social skill encouragement. And lastly, the fourth example is the criteria for checklist. Examples are on writing and reading, social skills, problem solving, and also intelligent behavior. And that ends our discussion. Thank you for listening and goodbye.